Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special broadcast on NewsX as the Russia-Ukraine crisis intensifies. Russia has mobilized about 1 lakh troops on its border with Ukraine. Russia says the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's eastward expansion, which the alliance calls enlargement, threatens its interests and has sought written security guarantees from the West. This crisis has unleashed a flurry of diplomatic moves with the US, NATO and the European Union holding talks with Russian officials. Tonight on NewsX, we're bringing you the Russian perspective on this Russia-Ukraine crisis. With a lineup of experts from Russia, we'll decode what the Russians want, the impact of the crisis, and much more. Joining us today is Alexey Maslov, Director, Institute of Asian and African Studies, Moscow State University. We also have Dr. Anastasia Likhacheva, Dean, Faculty of World Economy and International Affairs, HSE. Boris Volkonsky, Associate Professor, Institute of Asian and African Countries, Moscow State University, is also joining us live on the broadcast. Welcome all of you and thank you for being with us today. Let me in fact begin with Alexey, if I can. Alexey, let me start with you by asking you about how you are viewing this current Russia-Ukraine crisis.
Well, first of all, we must understand that this crisis is a long-lasting crisis, and it happened not just today or yesterday. And first of all, it's more than political crisis, and it's not a crisis between Russia and Ukraine. It's a crisis between Russia and United States. So Ukraine just a sacrifice of United States in its policy to increase the capacity of NATO. So it means that United States tries to establish one more flashpoint in this region. So say Russia has to react. And another question that a lot of analytics, first of all, analytics from Western countries spoke about the possibility of the real conventional war in this region. So say Russia should react in some way. And one more, it's a kind of provement of Russia, how Russia strong could be. So say it means Russia should react in some way. So before this period, we had another option. So say the flexible decision through the negotiations, and the final decision by the so-called Minsk agreements. But today, Russia is pushed out from these Minsk regulations, so the very flexible, though very slow way. And that's why a lot of people speak about war. But first of all, Russia has a very strong position not to increase the capacity of NATO, not to give a possibility of the enlargement of NATO. And frankly speaking, Russia could not survive, could not support the idea that the military forces of NATO could be very close to Russian territory. That's the main reason of this question.
Do you see this conflict, though, escalating into a military crisis?
Well, yes. I don't want to speak about the crisis. It's just a new wage, a new level of the clash between Russia and many Western countries on the military and on the political way. So this crisis could be resolved by the peaceful ways.
Okay, what's your response, though, Alexey, on the US's response to this entire situation?
Well, I think that US tried to make this very local conflict and to increase its up to the global conflict. And I don't think that it's just one point and one way. We can see that during the last couple of years, United States also pushed for the several conflicts, for not just in Ukraine, but also we can see absolutely the same conflict, like a mirroring conflict in between China and Taiwan. It's also a very long-lasting conflict, but for the last 2 years, United States started to speak about the possible war in the Taiwan Strait, and so say China also has to react to all these complaints, and also speak about the possibility of war. So I think it's not just the question about Ukraine and Russia. It's a question about the global redirection of the efforts of United States, how to control the regional politics.
Right. And also, what do you believe has led to the tensions? What has led to the situation reaching the current impasse?
Well, first of all, the Russian exercises in the regions that are close to the Ukrainian territory, the very strict politics conflict between United States and Russia. I think the increasing of the cooperation between Russia and China in the military matter, in the military field, and finally the attempt to make a new global order, or just to pacify the present-day world order by Russia and China. So United States should take back the control under the situation. So Ukraine just a point where United States could prove its possibility to make a conflict and to resolve the conflicts.
Okay. What should be done then, according to you, to de-escalate the current situation, Alexey?
Well, first of all, to come back to the negotiation table and to come back to the so-called the Minsk agreements. So to make a roadmap how we can make a right decision and to regulate the situation. But the first and most important is just to give a word that Ukraine never will be a member of the NATO. So it's a most important point. After this point, we can resolve all questions.
Right. And as far as Ukraine is concerned now, what we are seeing is they are solidifying ties with the West. What's your take on that?
Well, as far as we can see by the declaration of the Ukrainian politics, Ukraine doesn't want to be involved, to be engaged to any kind of military activities. So say Ukraine suddenly understood that it's not a really independent countries. United States and I think even Russia play the Ukrainian cards, and Ukraine could not affect to the situation. And that's why Ukraine tries to resolve the situation by the negotiation way. So Ukraine, I think Ukrainian politics have enough reason to come back to the negotiations.
Right. And finally, according to you, what should be the action plan, the road ahead now?
Well, I think that's it's a very tough question, because we can see that no one right now, not neither side, want to show its capacity to resolve this question, because each country try to prove that they have enough military forces, political and economical forces to resolve the situation by its side. So it's not a win-win situation, and we must understand that it could not be a win-win situation. So it means that all countries and all sides should understand that they affect not to the local situation, but also to the global situation. For example, global markets, global world trade, etc., etc. So these eventually could be a very dangerous situation to all countries, not also in the region, but also to the Western Europe, to European Union, because anyway, European Union will be involved to these military activities, even they don't want to do it.
Okay.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.